The law of God does not respond to who you desire to become. It responds to who you declare yourself to be. Man receives not by wishing, nor by hoping, but by identifying through the word as the one to whom the thing already belongs. A woman once came to me complaining that her affairs were stagnant. She had been declaring her good, reading her affirmations, giving generously, and doing what she believed was right. Yet nothing moves, she said, no matter how hard I work on myself. I asked her plainly, who is speaking these words? Who is making the declarations? She looked confused. I am, she said. I replied, but who is the I you speak from? Is it the heir or the orphan, the ruler or the beggar? Man's words are never isolated. They carry behind them the total weight of his inner self-image. The law is not swayed by repetition, by pleading, nor by positive attitude. The law is moved only by spiritual identity and the voice that proceeds from it. The universe responds to spiritual authority, not emotional sincerity. You may say, I am rich, but if the place you are speaking from is still dominated by lack, fear, or inferiority, the words fall to the ground before they ever reach the law. Or it is not the sentence that carries power, but the seal under which it is spoken. Your words carry signature, and the subconscious records not what you say, but who says it. There is no deception in divine mind. There is only spiritual precision. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you identify as. You may be waiting for the outer world to change so you can finally feel like someone worthy of more. But the law waits on nothing. It responds only to command, and command only belongs to the one who speaks from placement. There is no such thing as almost ready. In the eyes of spirit, you either stand in authority or you do not. You either speak from the throne or from the threshold. This is the great tragedy of those who study truth but remain in lack. They learn the affirmations. They memorize the verses, but they never abandon the old name, the identity that says, I am still not there yet. They continue to build a future version of themselves, rather than realizing that the law only hears the present tense. A woman once told me she repeated every morning, money flows to me from all directions, but I could feel in her voice the strain. She had said it so many times, yet it still felt like reaching. I told her gently, you must stop speaking from longing. You must begin speaking from inheritance. Desire without identification is not power, it is division. The law is whole. It cannot move where the speaker is split. If part of you claims prosperity but another part secretly clings to lack, the law cannot act. It must wait until the vibration is unified, until the inner voice says clearly, I am now the one to whom good comes. This is not arrogance. This is obedience to spiritual order. It is not pride to speak from the name Spirit gave you. It is humility to surrender the false name you built in its place. Many continue to act like servants in a kingdom where they were meant to rule. They speak softly, apologetically, hoping not to offend the invisible. But God does not withhold because you were bold. God withholds only when you speak under false identity, when you forget that your supply was already prepared before you asked. I have said before, man's word is his wand. But let me clarify, not just any word, and not from any voice. The wand is only activated when it is spoken by one who knows he has a right to hold it. A child of God does not ask to be supported. He states that his supply is immediate, sufficient, and divinely appointed. He does not say, one day I will be rich. He says, my supply is now at hand, for I walk in spiritual authority. The difference is not in the words, it is in the spiritual origin of the speaker. Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving. And seeing in this context is not with the eyes, but with the identity of speech. Your word is your mirror. It reflects back your deepest assumption. If your declaration is, I am abundant, but your tone says, I am still proving myself, then the law receives the contradiction and gives you delay, not supply. This is not punishment. This is the protection of sacred order. The law cannot bring to pass that which would violate your belief system. If you still believe yourself to be poor, you are placing a spiritual stop sign before your good. Even if your lips say, I receive, your inner court has already denied the case. The outer world always obeys the inner ruling. This is why I say again, the law does not respond to who you wish to be. It responds to who you claim to be. And your claim must not be intellectual. It must be audible, clear, without apology. Speak not as a beggar requesting favor, but as the rightful heir establishing jurisdiction. Speak as the one to whom it already belongs. There is a vast difference between saying, "I hope I will succeed," and "I am success expressing through me." One waits, the other reigns. One calls from the valley, the other speaks from the mountaintop, and yet both may live in the same outer circumstance. For it is not the world that determines your identity. It is your identity that determines how the world must respond. So I ask you again, who is it that speaks when you open your mouth? What is the tone, the name, the posture of the inner man behind your declaration? The law hears that name, not your ambition. If your inner name is still not enough, then no amount of affirmations will carry power. You must discard every title you have given yourself from fear, failure, or comparison. You must re-enter the court of divine mind under your lawful title, beloved, supplied, ordained. The moment you speak from that name, the law begins to organize itself around your word, not because you demanded, but because you finally aligned. Speak once with no fear. Speak as the one you were created to be. Say, "My identity is established in truth. Therefore, my supply cannot be withheld," and then remain silent, for the law has heard and the decree has been sealed. There is a dangerous confusion in the world today between what is called self-esteem and what I teach as spiritual identity. Self-esteem concerns itself with how man feels about himself, but spiritual identity has nothing to do with feeling. It has everything to do with position. One may feel very small and yet speak with power if he knows his place in divine law. Another may be filled with pride and confidence, but if he speaks without spiritual authority, his words fall empty. You are not provided for because you believe you deserve it. You are provided for because you speak as one who has already received his portion by divine inheritance. The world teaches you to earn your worth. The Spirit requires only that you stand in it. When a man says, "I do not feel worthy," he believes he is being honest. But he is, in fact, disqualifying himself from the very supply God has already made available. The law is not moved by humility born of fear. It is moved by alignment born of recognition. There is no spiritual virtue in diminishing yourself. The soul that says, "I am nothing," shall be treated as such. The law cannot reward false modesty. It must remain true to vibration. I once counseled a man who had great potential. He studied the laws, read the scriptures, spoke many affirmations, but still his business faltered. When I asked him what he believed about himself, he replied, "I am just trying to stay humble." I told him, "You are confusing humility with invisibility. God does not need you to hide. He needs you to represent. To represent God is not arrogance. It is obedience. You were not created to cower under heaven. You were formed to reflect it. But spiritual identity cannot be constructed like an image. It cannot be trained like a personality. It must be remembered and spoken. Many in this generation are taught to speak affirmations from the surface. I am worthy. I am powerful. I am enough. But they speak as if they are trying to convince themselves. That is not law. That is argument with the subconscious. The law does not respond to pleading, even if the pleading is poetic. The law responds to tone, vibration, and signature. It listens for a name, not a wish. When you say "I am," you activate the most sacred prefix in all of spiritual jurisprudence, but the content that follows determines the jurisdiction. If you say "I am trying to become," you've already negated the statement. The law does not work by partial truth. It is whole, or it is nothing. You cannot move forward while still confessing the identity of your past. The law will hold you where your word has anchored you. Self-esteem says, "I hope I am good enough to receive." Spiritual identity says, "What is mine by divine right cannot be kept from me." The first creates emotional dependency. The second awakens spiritual dominion. I have met women who repeat daily, "I love myself," and yet still walk in lack. Why? Because their identity was still rooted in the outer self, the temporary shell, the behavior, the emotion. The law does not move by sentiment, it moves by spirit, and the spirit must speak from the center of truth, not the surface of feeling. It is not the appearance of confidence that opens doors. It is the internal name you wear when no one is looking. Let me say this plainly. The law does not care how well you speak, it cares who is speaking. You may dress well, speak eloquently, carry yourself with charm, and still be operating under a name of insufficiency. You may also be trembling, uncertain, quiet, and yet if you speak as one positioned under divine law, the entire invisible will respond. I recall a woman who came to me ashamed. She had made many mistakes and believed she had disqualified herself from good. I told her, the law does not count trespasses. It counts vibration. If she continued to speak from guilt, the supply would remain blocked. But if she dared to speak from the name given to her in spirit, the path would clear. She asked me, "What is that name?" And I said, "You will know it by its effect. When you speak it, your spine straightens, your doubt flees, and your word no longer shakes." She began to speak quietly, not from the personality that had failed, but from the soul that had never been touched by failure. She said, "I am the daughter of divine order. What belongs to me returns." From that moment, her affairs turned. You see, she did not feel better. She stood differently. Self-esteem is a mood. Identity is a legal seat in the kingdom. Do not wait to feel strong before you speak. Speak as one already installed in spiritual legitimacy. The body may tremble, the thoughts may wander, but the word remains, and the law answers to the word spoken in reverent finality. Stop saying, "I'm working on myself." That is not a decree, that is a delay. Speak instead, "The true self has already been established in spirit. I now speak from it. I now walk in it." Do not say, "I hope people see my worth." Say, "Heaven recognizes my identity, therefore the earth shall respond." Do not say, "I'm not sure if I'm ready." Say, "Readiness is not a mood, it is a name, and I wear it now." Remember, the law does not move when you feel aligned. The law moves the moment you speak from alignment, even if your emotions have not yet caught up. The soul does not need your agreement. It needs your permission to speak, and once spoken, the law does not ask again. It begins its work, swiftly, silently, accurately. So I say to you, spiritual identity is not self-concept. It is not motivation. It is not healing language. It is not the soft echo of human affirmation. Spiritual identity is a name given by God, remembered by the soul, and declared by the tongue. Once you speak from it, you will not need to ask again. For what belongs to that name already knows how to find you, and when it arrives, it will not ask you to prove your worth. It will simply say, "I heard your voice, and I knew where to go." Money is not a thing. It is not a prize nor a possession. It is a spiritual response, a servant to the one who commands it lawfully. I have said before, money is God in manifestation, and this means it is not random, chaotic, or personal. It follows spiritual law. It hears structure. It obeys spiritual rank. If you understand this, you will no longer chase money, nor fear it, nor plead with it. You will begin to govern it, as one who knows that divine supply is not earned, but administered through identification. Money does not respond to intention. It responds to vibration. Not the vibration of emotion, but the vibration of spiritual identity. People are often confused by this. They say, "Florence, I've affirmed for years. I've worked hard. I've tried to think positively. Why does the flow remain blocked?" I ask them, "What rank are you speaking from? What is your inner name when you give a command?" If you speak as a borrower, money will behave as a lender. If you speak as an outsider, money will act as a gatekeeper. If you speak as a visitor, money will ask for permission. But when you speak as one who has already been appointed, money knows its place. It arrives, not to test you, but to serve you. The language of the invisible is not effort. It is alignment. And alignment is not performance, it is placement. A woman once came to me saying, "I always get just enough, never overflow." She had tithed, affirmed, studied, prayed, but her results remained narrow. I asked her, "What do you say when you pay a bill?" She replied, "I say thank you, and I hope I can cover the rest." I told her, "You are still identifying as one who makes up the difference, not one who sets the measure. Money hears you, not your gratitude. And what you say quietly, it obeys completely." She looked stunned. "I thought gratitude was enough," she said. I replied, "Gratitude is sacred, yes. But gratitude spoken from lack becomes disguised pleading. It is not what you say that governs money. It is who you say it as." The universe does not calculate how good you are. It calculates the signal you emit. If your words declare, "I trust," but your vibration declares, "I am still beneath it," then the law will honor the vibration, not the sentence. The subconscious does not filter for poetry. It records what is repeated with feeling and frequency. It catalogs your inner identity and forwards the decree. Your subconscious mind is not your servant. It is your notary. It stamps what you declare without bias. It does not ask if you are worthy. It does not check if you meant it. It only asks who is the speaker. And from that point forward, all matter aligns. This is why a wealthy man can speak a single word and attract a fortune, while another man speaks hundreds of affirmations and receives silence. It is not the sentence that holds power. It is the authority of identity behind the voice. Money does not obey those who ask. It obeys those who reign. You may speak softly. You may speak privately. But if you speak from dominion, the universe listens. The supply begins to coordinate itself, not because it is generous, but because it is lawful. When a king enters a room, he does not announce himself with noise. He simply speaks and the room rearranges. Why? Because he is not speaking to establish authority. He is speaking from it. So it is with divine supply. The moment you stop trying to be worthy of it and start standing in your spiritual title, it begins to move. You do not need to raise your energy. You need to raise your jurisdiction. This is what I mean when I say, the spoken word releases the highest good. Not because the word itself is magic, but because the word is the delivery mechanism of your identification. It says to the world, this is who I am, therefore, this is what must come. Most people live in reverse. They wait for the money before they adopt the identity. They say, when I have more, I'll feel secure. When I earn more, I'll believe it's possible. When I succeed, I'll speak boldly. But this is spiritual disorder. In the invisible, effect never precedes cause. Identity must come first. Supply is merely the echo. The one who waits to see before declaring will remain in limbo. For the law only echoes what it is told. If you tell it, I am waiting, it will say, then I will not yet arrive. Your identity writes the contract. Your word signs it, and the law executes it without delay. I once told a man to stop saying I can't afford it. He asked, even if it's true? I said, it is never true in divine mind. It is only true in your chosen identity. And every time you say it, you are reinforcing a lie, and the law must obey the lie until it is corrected. To say I can't is to say, the law is not enough. And the moment you speak that, your supply recoils. Not because God withholds, but because your identification has revoked the delivery. Words are not decorations, they are summons. Every time you speak, you issue a ruling. And money, being a lawful servant, obeys instantly. It does not debate, it does not analyze, it aligns. If your word is confused, your supply will be delayed. If your word is defensive, your supply will remain cautious. If your word is legal, finals, and spoken from right standing, your supply will arrive in full, without struggle, without exception. You must retrain your mouth to match your divine rank. You must stop speaking as the laborer and start speaking as the inheritor. You must stop reporting appearances and start declaring outcomes. You must stop asking for relief and start issuing rightful commands. When a child of God says, "This is mine by spiritual law," all of heaven moves to confirm it. Not because the child was loud, not because the child was good, but because the child finally stood in their appointed name. Let your word carry that name. Not your old one, not your humble one, not your broken one. Let your words speak as the one who already has, already is, already knows. Then money will find you. Not by accident, not by luck, not by technique, but because it finally recognizes who you are. No man is ever denied his good by God. He is only denied by the identity he refuses to release. If your word is not working, it is not because the law has failed. It is because the speaker's misidentified. And so the law, being exact, responds to the name it hears, not the result you intended. The law is not emotional, it is spiritual. It will not override your false name out of pity. It will only act when you return to the name that was written for you in the invisible, the name of spiritual alignment. There are many who walk in frustration, not because the law is broken, but because they are still speaking from identities that do not hold spiritual jurisdiction. They affirm, yet contradict. They desire, yet defend. They ask, yet still identify as someone who lacks authority to receive. Let us now name these false identities plainly. For the moment you identify them, you can revoke them. 1. The earned identity. This is the man who believes he must work hard enough, sacrifice long enough, or become good enough before he can speak as one who deserves wealth. He says things like, when I finish this program, When I reach that level, when I finally fix myself, then I'll feel ready. He delays his identity until his performance gives him permission. But the law does not operate by labor. It operates by lawfulness. You do not earn spiritual rank. You step into it. The earned identity blocks supply by placing it on the other side of your effort. It turns provision into a prize, instead of recognizing it as inheritance. This identity must be revoked by saying, "My good is not earned. It is remembered. I return now to my spiritual name, and it receives me." 2. The waiting identity. This is the person who speaks as if the timing must be better, the world must be different, or God must do more before they can receive. They speak as if they are stuck in a queue, next in line but never called forward. They use phrases like, "It's not my season yet," or "Maybe it's not meant for me right now." They wrap delay in spiritual language. But the truth is, they are still refusing to stand in present tense power. The law never says, "one day." It says, "Now is the accepted time." The universe does not respond to potential. It responds to placement. The waiting identity must be revoked by saying, "I no longer live in delay. I now speak from the moment the law has already prepared, and that moment is now." 3. The defensive identity. This one is subtle. It speaks not from desire, but from protection. This is the identity that says, "I'll declare, but only carefully, only in private, only after I'm sure it will work." They have been disappointed before. They have spoken and seen no fruit, and so they speak now just in case, not with full authority, but with a back door in case the invisible does not respond. But the law reads the undertone. It hears fear where there should be firmness, and the result is confusion. This identity speaks like, "I'll just say this softly. I don't want to jinx it. I'm trying not to expect too much." But the law cannot answer a double-minded man. He must commit to the jurisdiction, even if appearances still contradict it. This identity must be revoked by saying, "I do not speak as defense. I speak as decree. My word holds. My tone is final. I no longer protect myself from disappointment. I authorize the invisible to move." 4. The desperate identity. This is the person who cries out even when they use the right words. They affirm wealth, but from a place of internal panic. They speak the formula, but their energy says, "Please let this work." They believe that passion equals power, but the law is not moved by intensity, it is moved by clarity. Desperation in the realm of spirit is a false frequency. It suggests God is far, it assumes help is late, and so it sends out a signal of unbelonging. And the law must answer with silence, not because supply is absent, but because identity is misaligned. This person says, "I really need this, I'm trying everything, I just want one breakthrough." But desperation is not a match to the calm absolute rhythm of spiritual supply. You do not need to strive, you need to stand. This identity must be revoked by saying, "My voice is not panic, it is permission. My need is already met in the invisible. I now declare it as one who governs, not one who gasps." 5. The guilty identity. This is perhaps the most invisible of all. It lives in people who have grown spiritually, but still carry the memory of past errors. They speak affirmations with hesitation because something within still whispers, "I don't deserve to receive fully." They have judged themselves, and so even when the law is ready to respond, they subconsciously repel the blessing, believing they are not yet clean enough to hold it. They say, "I just want enough to get by. I'm not asking for too much. I know I've made mistakes." But the law is not moral. It is mechanical. It does not forgive because it does not accuse. It simply echoes your tone. If you speak from guilt, it will return to you the echo of punishment. This identity must be revoked by saying, "The law remembers no guilt. The past holds no power. My identity is not my record, it is my reflection of divine truth. I now speak as one fully restored." All false identities, no matter how spiritual they sound, must be surrendered. You cannot keep calling yourself a work in progress and expect the law to obey you as a finished authority. You cannot claim divine timing as an excuse for hesitation. You cannot say, "Maybe not yet," and expect an already done response. The law reads your energy not in what you say, but in where you are standing when you say it. And so I say to you, withdraw the name you have worn that no longer holds spiritual jurisdiction. No more pleading, no more proving, no more waiting to be someone else. The only self the law recognizes is the one that speaks in alignment, not an apology. You are not here to earn your identity. You are here to embody it. To say, this is who I am now, therefore this is what is mine. And when that name is spoken without contradiction, the law must obey. It is not only your words that create, it is the tone beneath your words, the vibration behind your voice, that trains all things to respond. The law of the spoken word does not measure you by sentences. It measures you by frequency. The subconscious does not listen to content. It listens to command tone. And tone is the expression of identity in motion. Money does not obey syllables. It obeys jurisdiction. And jurisdiction is not proven by volume, effort, or repetition, but by the tone with which you govern your reality. I have met many who speak truth, yet nothing changes. They say all the right phrases, repeat affirmations, bless their finances, and declare abundance. But when I listen, not with the ears but with the inner faculty, I hear it. The tone of asking, not ruling. The sound of someone hoping to be obeyed, not someone used to being obeyed. You must understand this. The law is exact. It discerns not only what you say, but how you say it. And your tone is the report card of your subconscious. A person may say, I am rich, but if they say it with a tone of doubt, fatigue, sarcasm, or defensiveness, the law will not receive it as a decree. It will receive it as a broadcast of inner uncertainty, and return accordingly. I once counseled a man who spoke his affirmations daily. He had been through hardship and was trying to reclaim his sense of spiritual authority. But each time he declared, supply flows freely to me now, I noticed his voice dropped at the end. His energy faded. His word came out like a wish, not a verdict. I told him, you are using the right words but the wrong voice. He replied, I'm just tired. I answered, then speak from a higher court than your tiredness. Speak not from the flesh, but from the throne within you. Your body may tremble, your mind may wander, but the voice of the Spirit must remain unmoved. This is what trains your world. Just as a child learns to obey not only by the parent's commands, but by their tone of certainty, so money, supply, opportunity, and response learn to obey your tone. And if your tone is uncertain, hesitant, too gentle to carry weight, the universe will delay, not out of cruelty, but out of confusion. The spiritual realm is exact. It moves where the decree is sealed, not questioned. Now hear me clearly. This is not about being loud. It is not about performing confidence. Many speak boldly on the surface while still vibrating fear underneath. Tone is not style. It is spiritual consistency. It is the note your soul holds, even when your personality falters. Tone is not a performance. It is a posture. And posture is what causes the invisible to move. If you speak to money with fear, money will learn to fear you. If you speak to money with apology, money will learn to stay distant. If you speak to money with wariness, it will learn to hesitate. But if you speak to money with calm, settled, lawful tone, money will learn that it is safe, legal, and correct to come to you. You are always training your money by how you speak to it. Not just when you affirm, but when you check your balance, when you speak of lack, when you pay a bill, when you answer someone who says, that's too expensive. You are either reinforcing your role as commander or rehearsing the role of victim. The law hears the difference. Money does not come because you desire it. It comes because you are recognized by tone as one who governs. A king does not explain his decisions, he declares, and the world bends. Why? Because his tone is built on legal placement. He does not raise his voice to prove his power. His power is evident in how little he needs to prove. So I ask you, what energy surrounds your words? When you say, I have all I need, do you feel the gravity of that truth under your ribs? Or are you trying to believe it enough to make it so? When you say, money flows easily, are you speaking from remembrance or recitation? The law does not obey what you say. It obeys what your voice has proven it believes. This is why I say, do not try to feel powerful before you speak. Speak from the place where your power is not in question. Even if you must borrow that tone from the higher self for now, borrow it. Let your voice carry the rhythm of finality. Let your breath support the weight of a lawful decree. Let your sentence fall as if heaven has already heard and responded, because it has. There is a reason the scriptures say, speak the word only, and thy servant shall be healed. It is not about volume, nor eloquence. It is about certainty, delivered through tone. Speak once, rightly, and the invisible organizes itself. Speak 10 times uncertainly, and the invisible waits for clarity. Your tone is not decoration, it is registration. It stamps your identity into the command. When a person says, "Let there be," they are not asking for permission. They are recognizing that the thing already is, and now must appear. This is the voice that trains money to trust you. And once money has learned your tone, it will not need reminders. It will not need repetition. It will follow. Just as a dog knows the difference between an empty call and a command, your money knows whether your words are trial balloons or final decisions. So I say to you, train your money by how you speak to it. Train your world by the dignity of your sentence. Train the law to recognize you, not by desperation, but by tone of spiritual certainty. Let the words you speak come from the part of you that has already received. Speak from the place where it is already done. And let the tone seal what the tongue has declared. You do not need to feel loud, you need to feel legal. You do not need to sound spiritual, you need to sound certain. Then your money will obey, not because you earned it, not because you attracted it, but because your tone left no room for contradiction. The law does not respond to pleading. It responds to leadership. You cannot direct a force that you still fear. You cannot command a supply that you still believe belongs to someone else. And you cannot lead your life if your word still trembles with apology. So long as you plead with the law, you position yourself beneath it. But you were never meant to be beneath anything created. You were meant to stand in spiritual government and issue decrees, not from personal strength, but from divine jurisdiction. There are those who think they are being humble when they say, "If it be God's will," or "I'll wait until the universe decides," or "I'm just trusting the timing." But these phrases, when spoken from fear, are not faith. They are spiritual avoidance dressed in polite language. God is not withholding from you. The law is not delaying you. The only thing withholding or delaying is your refusal to speak from leadership. You may ask, how can I lead if I still feel small? But leadership is not a feeling. It is an act of remembrance. You lead the law by remembering who you are. You lead money by remembering what it obeys. You lead your life by remembering that your word was never meant to describe your reality. It was meant to define it. I once counseled a woman who had grown weary of affirmations. She told me, "I've tried everything. Nothing sticks. It feels like I'm begging spirit to notice me." I said, "That is the problem. You are not called to beg. You are called to speak as one already noticed, already placed, already sealed by the authority of your divine inheritance. Your declarations are not requests. They are releases. They are not hopes. They are verdicts. But if your tone carries the vibration of waiting for someone to approve your decree, then it is not yet a decree. It is still a request for permission, and the law does not move on permission. It moves on command. There is a structure to command. It is not chaotic. It is not emotional. It is not manipulative. True command is clean, calm, and complete. You do not need to explain yourself to the law. You do not need to justify your request. You need only to speak with the dignity of the one who already belongs to divine order. Stop trying to convince the universe to be kind to you. Stop trying to earn what has already been assigned to you. Stop narrating your struggle, hoping heaven will hear your pain and feel pity. Heaven does not operate on pity. It operates on principle. And the principle is this: as you speak, so shall it be. Not as you feel, not as you hope, as you declare. If your declaration carries hesitation, it trains your reality to hesitate. If your declaration carries weight, it trains your reality to respond with certainty. The shift must happen now, from pleading to leading. You do not beg the seed to grow, you plant it and know. You do not beg the sun to rise, you simply prepare the day. So it is with spiritual power. You do not repeat for effect. You do not dramatize for attention. You do not speak to be rescued. You speak to re-establish order, and order only answers the voice of command. Now let me be clear. Command is not arrogance. It is not shouting. It is not demanding from pride. It is the quiet, unwavering tone of one who knows the law cannot contradict itself. The law is on your side because your identity was written from it. So if the law has not moved, the issue is not external. It is a matter of voice. You may still be sounding like a visitor in a kingdom that was given to you to govern. I ask you, when you say, "I receive supply," Do you say it as a plea for relief or as a restoration of right? When you say, money comes to me, do you still sound like you are requesting access or declaring arrival? Do not say, please let me have enough. Say, I now walk as one to whom abundance responds. Do not say, I hope this works. Say, this has already been completed in the invisible and I now authorize its appearance. The law recognizes these tones. It moves only when it hears the voice of authority. This is why Christ did not say, if it's not too much trouble, be healed. He said, take up thy bed and walk. He did not say, please let the storm pass. He said, peace, be still. No apology, no panic, no hesitation. Command. And when the command is spoken by one who remembers his rank in spirit, the law must comply. You may feel weak, you may feel unsure, but if you speak from the place where doubt is not permitted to lead the sentence, you will see change. You will see money reorganize itself around your voice. You will see resistance drop. You will see open doors appear, not because you chased them, but because you finally claimed authority over the structure. Leadership is not something you earn. It is something you reclaim. There is a version of you that has already been seen by the invisible. That version is not trying. That version is not learning. That version is ruling. Speak from there. Lead from there. Let your speech no longer be decorated with disclaimers. Let your decrees no longer be padded by fear. Speak once as the one who has been sent, not the one who is still seeking. And the law will rise to meet you, because the law was never above you. It was always waiting for your legal tone to release it. In every spiritual journey, there comes a moment where the individual must decide to stop adjusting to their past and begin legislating their future. That moment is not marked by emotion. It is not made visible by signs or wonders. It is marked only by one act, a lawful decree made from full identity. Until this moment is reached, every affirmation, every visualization, every act of faith is still passing through layers of doubt. But the decree bypasses the layers. It does not seek support. It does not ask for evidence. It functions not as a request, but as a legal trigger that puts the law to work. I have seen many spend years studying truth. They gather knowledge, explore teachings, read scriptures, and listen to sermons. But they still hold back the one thing the law needs most, a final decision spoken with spiritual weight. Most are not waiting for money. They are waiting to stop doubting their right to hold it. They do not lack opportunity. They lack permission, not from the world, but from themselves. And so they keep their desires on probation, treating their good as something that might arrive if all conditions are perfect. This is not how the law works. Divine law does not need conditions. It needs confirmation of jurisdiction. When you speak without contradiction, without deferral, without making room for reversal, the law begins to act. And it does so, not because you have finally become worthy, but because you have finally recognized that worthiness was never the issue. Only permission was. This is not self-esteem. It is not confidence. It is not about finally believing enough. It is the act of assuming full legal identity and speaking with the tone of completion. Most people speak too soon. They say they are ready, but their words carry hesitation. They say, I receive, while still watching to see if it worked. They issue a command, then immediately follow it with another sentence that weakens its structure. They treat spiritual speech like rehearsal, forgetting that the law does not recognize performance. It recognizes authority. To speak with authority is not to speak louder. It is to speak as one who has closed the case, as one who will not bring the matter back to court, as one who is no longer seeking confirmation, because the verdict has already been rendered. If your words are still testing the law will wait. If your words carry finality, the law will obey. The decree of permanent permission is not dramatic. It is not emotional. It is not poetic. It is often quiet, even unremarkable in delivery. But it carries a frequency that cannot be mistaken. This is done, and I will not contradict it again. I have seen people receive financial breakthroughs, healing, relationships, and opportunities, not because they did more, but because they finally spoke from the place where their inner self was no longer debating the outcome. They no longer tried to make the statement feel powerful. They simply spoke it as law and let the tone carry the rest. When you decree something with permanent permission, you are not speaking into possibility. You are speaking into structure. You are issuing an instruction that cannot be undone without your consent. And you are deciding that your consent will not be given. This is where your transformation stabilizes. This is where the pattern of delay ends. This is where the law no longer searches your tone for hesitation. And this is where money, supply, and circumstance begin to recognize you not as a hopeful speaker, but as a lawful commander. Say what must be said. Say it once. Say it cleanly. You do not need to explain. You do not need to prepare. You only need to mean it. And if you truly mean it, you will not need to repeat it. You will walk away from the decree the same way a judge walks away from the bench, not wondering if the sentence will be carried out, but knowing the machinery has already been set in motion. There is no applause. There is no emotional high. There is simply spiritual administration, already underway, and the world, having heard the decree, will now conform. What has been denied will appear. What has been delayed will be released. What has been unstable will settle. Not because you finally deserved it, but because you finally authorized it. From this point forward, you do not affirm for permission. You affirm only to revisit your decision with reverence, not with question. You are not applying for wealth. You are not campaigning for ease. You are not waiting to be evaluated. You have been placed, and you have now confirmed that placement aloud. Let the placement hold. Let the decree stand. Say only this: if anything must still be said, I now live as one who has already been approved. And if that sentence carries your full identity, spoken without contradiction, then nothing more is required. The law will finish what you declared, and you will no longer be known by what you've waited for, but by what you finally gave yourself lawful permission to embody.